Well, folks, for the first time in quite some time, we welcome you back into the WNBA 365 Network, your comprehensive home of all things WNBA and women's basketball related. Again, folks, coming your way this evening to put a final cherry on top for the 2017 season. This is our first show during the hiatus period, folks. We do welcome you into the Calamax Sports Studios here in San Diego. For some post-game thoughts and some postseason thoughts, for that matter, now at this point in time here this evening, as Game 5 of the WNBA Finals does wrap up today with the Minnesota Lynx winning their fourth WNBA title in the past 7 seasons and keeping their odd year streak continuing. Good evening, folks, and welcome in, as mentioned again, Cal McClure joining you folks here. Audio only for the time being, trying to work out some webcam problems right now. But we'll hopefully get those fixed for you folks sometime momentarily. Again, and somewhat, folks, this was a, excuse me. Again, I know that we have been off air the past couple of days, more like weeks and months and what have you, for the past couple of weeks, I should say. And again, somewhat, I think, perhaps as a way of somewhat owning up for us being gone for so long, and thought we'd come here and I guess share our final takeaways and thoughts from the game, from the series, from the season, and also somewhat, of course, update you, I guess, about what has gone on during our hiatus period, folks. Again, I know that it's been a while since we've been able to join you folks here on the program. But, of course, we are going to keep this at about roughly an hour and a half, maybe 2-hour program tonight, folks. We do encourage you to please send in your commentary as you would, of course, during any typical program, of course, here. So please do so on Facebook over at facebook.com/WNBA365, or, of course, find us over on Twitter at WNBA365 or at Calamac3, hashtag WNBA365, and we'll go, of course, from there with everything else this evening. And also, of course, you can chime in via the live chat box in the right corner of your screen, and we'll get to those comments when we have a break in the action. With that, folks, Game 5, deciding Game 5 to put a final cherry on top of a 2017 WNBA season, and it's the Minnesota Lynx winning back-to-back games, and as mentioned, their fourth title in the franchise history, and their seventh, their fourth in the past 7 years, I should say, getting misconstrued here. Again, they do hold off a late LA run, 85-76, to win the title on their home floor. Somewhat home floor, neutral site home floor, more so, at Williams Arena on the campus of the University of Minnesota. Leading the way for LA, Candace Parker, 19 points. Chelsea Gray chipped in 15. And, of course, Neko Ogumike only has 11. And, of course, fouled out of the game early third quarter. Maya Moore with the game-winning basket, 18 points. Sylvia Fowles, your finals MVP, 17 points. And Lindsay Whalen on her old college floor also chips in 17 points. Total attendance tonight, folks, a sellout crowd of 14,632. This game was not tied, nor did the lead change in this ball game. And I think, folks, we'll start with the Sparks first. Of course, the defending champs going into this series, into the season. And really, I think if you're an LA fan out there, I don't know if there's really a reason to be frustrated or depressed, or even upset, or even sad about how this team performed this year. Obviously, some question marks, and as well for a team that for 14 years had not won a championship and had missed that championship feeling and taste, and all the bumps in the road of early playoff exits, either in blowout fashion or at the final buzzer in crucial games at home. That I think, and even coming off of last season, and even with the offseason this year, of course, how are you going to replace Christy Tolliver? How much will the championship hangover be? Consider that this team lost only once in the regular season and then once in the postseason, in a game that perhaps was probably the turning point of the series, of them losing Game 4 on Sunday, having to go back to Minneapolis and play Game 5 in a very loud, energetic, revved up arena in Minneapolis. But even still, though, I don't know if there is any reason to be upset, I guess, about how the season really went. I know that there are perhaps some of you out there that are, right now grieving, perhaps mourning the loss, but at least, and this may be the San Diego sports fan in me is, even I'm not even that upset or disappointed in how the game went. Although there was a bit of, I saw this a lot on the web from friends, either on the Facebook page or on the timelines on Twitter, was, obviously, or perhaps LA's best chance to close that series out really was losing Game 4 on Sunday. Maybe even that final possession in Game 2, that, of course, it was a turnover that ended the ball game when the Lynx held on by 2 points. But even then, though, I think that this LA club, I mean, you can call me crazy, but I think that they are going to be here to stay for a while. I think that based off of them in 2016, of course, how them in Minnesota, past 2 years has been phenomenal. I think, though, that just this year, and probably banking off of what Candace Parker told Ramona Shelburne on ESPNLA.com before Game 4 was, or about Game 4 last year at least, was they were more focused on playing for the title or winning the championship more than just taking it as another game. And that's what we hear a lot across press conferences or media days for the playoffs is you try your best to play these games like it's just another game. Yes, there is more on the line, obviously, either a playoff win, a championship's on the line, or something monumental for that franchise, either the first playoff win ever or first championship in franchise history. And somewhat, Tanisha Stewart, folks, I think, our great co-host at Shorty Mamba 24 on Twitter, she said it right, though, during the entire series was it was so eerie, so, somewhat, as we are in Halloween time, a little scary about how similar, how close, and pretty much how much of a carbon copy 2017 finals were to last year's finals. LA steals Game 1 at the buzzer in 2016, deja vu in 2017. Minnesota takes charge in Game 2, carbon copy again in 2017. LA stomps or beats Minnesota in Game 3 at home. Same story here. Game 4, Minnesota roars back again. Same story in Game 4 here. The only difference, Game 5 this year as opposed to last year, it's not a missed shot clock violation or even, or what have you in that aspect, or even Neko Gumake putting in a game-winning basket at the final horn. It's more of somewhat of a big hole built by Los Angeles in this game. And Minnesota, championship pedigree, having been there as many times as they have in the past 7 years, championship experience overtaking a team that, of course, took 14 years for them to win a championship. And that, I think, is somewhat as to the reasons or culprits that Minnesota won this ball game is, again, that championship pedigree of that organization the past 7 years. And, I mean, I don't think there is enough good things that we can say about how well the Sparks really did play this season. Again, obviously, first championship in 14 years, unstoppable at home, minus that one hiccup in the regular season. Played great basketball in the postseason, and of course, a couple of hiccups when it counted the most for a team that I think, no bias here, but I think though that a team that I think is geared for another postseason berth, and maybe even their own third straight finals appearance, perhaps. Again, that's for us to talk about next season at least, or next year, but going forward. As that. All right, let's go to the chat box real quick and visit with our great friend Todd Mintz. I know, Todd, sorry, man, about Sunday. As you know, man, I've had a lot going on recently, but of course, thanks for helping out, though, as you have over the past couple of days and weeks during this hiatus break. Todd says nothing at all to be sad about. It was a great effort. They were outboarded, simple as that. Players gave it all they had. Brunson and Fowles are a tough combo. The title was, in fact, lost on Sunday. And Todd, a lot of people, though, inside of the LA fan community on the web, they all even pretty much said, they had weird feelings, though, about Game 4, even as much as I had feelings about Game 4, that I knew that if Game 4 went Minnesota's way, that, of course, it would be a Game 5, but would LA be able to duplicate how they played Game 5 last year in this year or in this season's finals? Obviously, that was not the case this year. Slow start in Game 5. And Todd, you even hit the nail on the head, though, on Sunday. It was more about how the momentum, I think, not only of Game 4, Todd, but maybe even getting to Game 5 was the flagrant foul on Lindsay Whalen early in the first quarter of that game. And you brought this up. I even noticed it too. That really lit a fire under this Minnesota team. And from that moment forward, they totally took over the pace and they dictated how they were going to play Game 4. And I think that really even carried over to Game 5, feeding off the 14,000 people inside the barn there at Williams Arena. So I think that was probably a talking point or a turning point that really, I think, has not been talked about or discussed a lot, has been that from that very moment in Game 4 with the flagrant one on Whalen, that whole series and the momentum, I think, totally swung in favor of Minnesota going forward, as I talked about and touched base on with that championship pedigree of that veteran-led team. Todd also says Agler did a great job this year getting Sims up to speed in her per his defensive system, where she and Gray were an awesome combo. Have to give credit to Lindsay Whalen, her best game of the season. You know, and I think, Todd, and I say this a lot, I know that this probably gets old, folks, but change of scenery, players, even coaches, is always a perfect remedy and cure for a couple of struggles. And I think that with Agler in place with LA is that they have gone back to how the Sparks, I think, used to play defense in the early 90s, late 2000s, when they were, of course, repeating back-to-back titles in 01 and 02. And I think it really more so, I think, Todd, finally clicked for the Sparks, I think, during the run to the finals and for the title in 2016, and then really kind of carried over. And also, and I know that perhaps that Brian is probably gets scrutinized a lot for not playing the rookies a la Sims and Weiss, I should say, more so than anyone else. But so far, I think that Brian's done a good job, though, of developing Sims at least this year. And that backcourt, I think, is probably the best thing that's happened to Los Angeles, I think, Todd, and probably a long time transaction-wise outside of either Parker's selection in 08, NECA and Lav coming in 2011 or 2012, that perhaps that backcourt duo may be one of the better guard combinations we've seen from the Sparks probably in years, I think. And maybe I'm probably overstepping my boundaries there, but I think, though, that honestly, Sims and Gray, I mean, they were a two-headed monster, especially in the postseason. Yeah, of course, they had hiccups in Game 4 and, of course, tonight. But I think, though, that's probably a young combo. It's going to be fun to watch for the next couple of years going forward. With that, folks, I do, though, want to quickly break away and give a major shout out to one of our great Twitter followers, to Ben Wagner, who was at Game 5 tonight. Ben sent me a bunch of photos from the game. We're going to pull those up real quick, and we'll show those to you, folks, courtesy of Google Talk Screen Share momentarily when I do, in fact, get my Twitter feed loaded here on my laptop here. But, of course, folks, you, of course, can engage, as usual, via Facebook or Twitter or, of course, live chat box. Would love to get more input on from you folks, of course, during this block of the program. And of course, we'll have more as well about our about the hiatus period coming up sometime this evening as well here tonight. Just want to send Ben a quick message real quick, folks. Give me one brief second here. Ben just sent me a bunch of pictures, so see what I can share for you folks here real quick. All right, so a couple of photos here from Ben Wagner. Of course, Ben, a great friend of mine. Of course, as you folks know, again, Ben was very kind to actually invite me to Seattle for the All-Star game this past July. I was able to make the trip. So Ben, of course, sending a couple photos. Obviously, I have not experienced this in San Diego, thanks to all of my teams underperforming, minus the San Diego Sockers. When I was a media intern in 2012, we won the title. I was able to celebrate with the team out there. You can, of course, folks, see Prawl, the Lynx mascot with the Lynx win picket sign up. And also there is Cheryl and Brian Agler embracing at midcourt amongst the green and silver confetti being flown over there. So there's one photo. We'll go to the next one real quick because they're setting up shop for the trophy presentation. Of course, always be warning, though, folks, when you're able to win the title at home. I mean, obviously, you know, I mean, you could go and ask anyone that's won titles on the road that, of course, it's fun to win on the road, and of course, to kind of rub it in the face of the home crowd. A nice little shot again from Ben's perspective, and of course, a very emotional Cheryl Reed, folks. I mean, I saw Cheryl getting very choked up with the last 8 seconds of the game left, and of course, ESPN cut to her very quickly, and of course, Cheryl was very teared up and choked up, I should say, on that one. There's the team lifting their 4th WNBA title trophy, and the team in the past 7 years, I should say, been really going medieval. We're trying to get these very close shots of the scoreboard, at least, going forward here. from the barn this evening, and just very great to see, of course, the players saluting all of the players, saluting the fans out there. You can see Sylvia Fowles, Tasha Howard out there, somewhat watching the last couple moments of the game. So, of course, Ben, thanks again very much, buddy, for sending those photos. Ben was actually in traffic when I had asked him if he could share those photos with me from the ball game. But again, Ben, thanks very much for allowing us to share your photos here on the program this evening. Now, folks, for the Minnesota Lynx, again, their 4th title in 7 seasons. And again, you probably saw us, folks, on the network Twitter handle during the game. But if you recall, folks, again, I was the one, here's an LA fan, he was saying, but then again, if you recall, this Minnesota team has won in 2011, 2013, 2015, so it wouldn't surprise me if 2017 won it again. And again, I think, though, that somewhat, I think, the Lynx are somewhat becoming the San Antonio Spurs of the WNBA. I say that, folks, because it just seems like, and I think I've kind of noticed this, though, recently, maybe after 2015, that somewhat I think people question how much more or how much longer this team has on as the cream of the crop or coup de grace of the WNBA. And frankly, I still don't see this team slowing down anytime soon. I mean, even with Waylon's age and with Moan's age, that really, it's still, though, I think it's still a bit baffling. I think more than anything else that it still seems like the Lynx continue to somewhat kind of get written off a little bit. I'm not saying it does, but just noticing that lately. But again, I still say, though, that this is the team, that you have to beat when it counts the most until it doesn't happen again. And frankly, again, I'm going to go back to this again, folks. But again, I really think that the whole series shifted from this being pure LA domination, somewhat, maybe not pure but more so in LA's favor after the Whalen foul in Game 4. And again, it's probably a play that's not talked about like LeBron's block against Golden State, or talked about like Patrick Hornquist's goal in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals last year between the Penguins and Predators. Or it's not a play that's going to be remembered in WNBA lore, for years and years and years. But really, if you were watching that game closely on Sunday and you saw that foul happen with LA really owning, really dictating the pace and flow of that game early, that really, after that play, the momentum, swung a 180 and went in favor of Minnesota. And I still say that the Lynx are going to be the team for a while because of their championship experience. Again, for the Sparks, again, that 1 year doesn't compensate 6 or 7 straight trips to the finals. I mean, playoff berths are cool and all, but unless you're actually getting there, I mean, if you're like the Cowboys or like the Heat or the Cavs getting to the finals as many times as they have, I really don't know how you can stop them. I mean, frankly, across the sports book, folks, in dynasties, the one that I look most upon or look at most is the Soviet Union hockey team. I mean, look at them from 62 till 80, no losses in the Olympic Games and gold medal after gold medal. And obviously, yes, apples to oranges, folks, but though the Lynx have been that way. I mean, I don't know. Obviously now it's applicable now. They are the modern day WNBA version of the Comets, for their 4th title now recently. But this is a dynasty, and I think that even with the roster age, this is still a team you cannot or can't count against, I think, in my very honest opinion. Todd, real quick in the chat box, he says, loudest home game or loudest crowd the Lynx have ever played in, including Target Center, not even close. And Todd, a good point about that, because Holly Rowe tweeted out a picture. She kept a noise meter on her phone during the whole game, and at 4:57 Pacific time, so literally 3 minutes before airtime tonight on ESPN, the noise in the arena was over 103 decibels. In perspective, my high school homecoming pep rally that was on local news down here got 110 on the noise meter for decibels. So they were literally 7 decibels away from tying my high school homecoming pep rally that was shown on on local news down here in San Diego. So obviously, folks, and I think Ari and I can vouch for this, but again, here, all the things that we talked about with me and Ari Shorts, but obviously 14,000. Even if you're not a Minnesota fan, folks, you have to love, admire, and respect that fan base in Minneapolis. Obviously, in a city much like my hometown of San Diego, no championships recently, and the only team that does win is, of course, in a league that, of course, as we've talked about plenty of times, scuffling for media attention. But yet 14,000 people still cram in a very well-known Big Ten basketball arena and see their team win the title on their home floor. Very great to see, and of course, salute to the great Lynx fans in Minneapolis. Todd, about the Lynx, he says, Cal, don't know what's going to happen. Lindsay could quit, perhaps. Augusta struggled all season physically. She had her knees drained. Brunson may quit. Don't know how the Lynx will look next season. That is probably the one minor thing, perhaps, Todd, about this is how much longer or how much more does Gentry, Lindsay Whalen, folks, in her alter ego, that has been priceless on Instagram. If you have not seen him, folks, please go check him out on Way's IG, along with Simone in the knees and also with Brunson. Frankly, Todd, I do perhaps see Brunson perhaps calling quits. Now that she's won her 5th ring, I don't know if there's really much more for her to accomplish outside of maybe going back-to-back, perhaps. So, yes, I think that there are a couple small question marks, Todd. But even with those question marks, I think that the Lynx are still a team that cannot be taken lightly for what that they have done recently. I think that their recent track record, again, the 7 straight finals appearances, 4 wins in those 7 tries, that they still can't be counted out or frowned upon or looked upon any differently than a team like Los Angeles, of course, who's still got, a 10th-year player in Candace Parker, last year's finals MVP in Neko Ogumake, and then, of course, a bunch of young kids around them. But definitely, though, they will be interesting, but they're still my early favorite for 2018 going forward already, with LA being a very close second, maybe 1B behind the Lynx for 2018 at this point in time. Though, actually, folks, want to give a quick shout-out to one of our followers on Twitter from at T._girl21. She tweeted out or sent a tweet out thanking us for our coverage this season. Also thanked our great friend Sue Faber from Hoopism, our buddy David from Dishin and Swishin, our friend Angelique Gray, who you guys saw on our draft day show from NBA TV, LaChina Robinson, Michelle Volpel, and of course us. T-Dot, thank you for the tweet and for the love. And of course, thanks for following us and being here for as long as we have going forward. But again, folks, Game 5 final again. The Lynx win their 4th title in 7 years tonight over the LA Sparks in another exciting, thrilling, entertaining, epic WNBA final series. I think, folks, to kind of think about this real quick again is something I've pondered, though, is where does this rivalry in your mind rank amongst some of the best or greatest rivalries in league history? Obviously, this is not anywhere close to Yankees, Red Sox, Lakers, Celtics, or any other historic rivalries in sports. But I think, though, that outside of the Sparks and Mercury, which I still believe, folks, is the best rivalry in the league, it's been going on nonstop for 21 straight years. We can look back at Houston and New York maybe in the early 90s, even the LA-New York rivalry in the early 90s, Minnesota, Phoenix, even the LA-Detroit rivalries. But, folks, what do you think, though, about perhaps, at least in recent years, does Minnesota-Phoenix still take the cake for you as the best finals rivalry or finals matchup? Or has LA-Minnesota finally taken the bacon for you in regards to epicness or in regards to everything? I still think that Minnesota and Phoenix is probably still my number 1 right now, because that they have met at least 3, maybe 4, maybe even more times in a row in consecutive years in the playoffs, either the Western Conference Final or the league semifinals recently. You think back to 2013, of course, DT and Moan kissing at midcourt. Many epic battles in the playoffs between those two teams. But is LA, Minnesota kind of somewhat taking over for the Minnesota-Phoenix rivalry? Considering now that in 2 years under the new format, we've had the same matchup and we've been treated to 10 epically amazing, hard-fought, just pure epic ball games that whether you're a fan of either team or not, or you're just a casual viewer, but you are hooked on the action and intrigued, that I think that LA and Minnesota is kind of winning me over a little bit as we think about inside the playoffs at least. I mean, historically, LA Phoenix is still historically my favorite, personal favorite, being a part or perhaps being a part of both organizations at least going forward. Todd says real quick, he says New York, Atlanta was good as well, especially when ATL was getting to the finals. They had a couple of good playoffs versus each other. Minnesota has won at least, or it feels like 15 straight versus Phoenix in the postseason recently going forward. You know, New York and Atlanta, possibly out east is a good one, I think. I think for a long time too, Todd, I'd even throw the Sparks and Monarchs in there too if we're looking at mid-2000s when post-02, or at least past post-03, when the Sparks did lose to Detroit to stop their chance at a three-peat, that those LA-Sacramento matchups, typical NorCal-SoCal matchups, or matchup, I should say, was also pretty intriguing, I think, for the fact that they were in there, I think, 3 or 4 straight years. And that also somewhat, I think, was maybe a bit aided, I think, though, too, in the early 2000s by the Lakers and Kings animosity and hostilities for each other in the early 2000s. So good point from Todd about the Liberty and Dream perhaps being another good finals rivalry or rivalry in general going forward, going forward at least at this point. So again, folks, give us your thoughts on Twitter or in the chat box. Again, throw it out there. I mean, frankly, I know that I think I probably have tried to somewhat pump up the Battle of the Alamo for Dallas and San Antonio. But if you have one better for us, definitely let us know if you do have one that may be better than what we can offer at the table here this evening. But again, folks, to reiterate again, in another thrilling, epic, amazing, off-the-chart, off-the-wall series. Again, the Lynx win their 4th title in 7 years. They beat the LA Sparks 85-76, and again, stopping another chance of a team repeating this season. Again, 85-76, Los Lynx over the Sparks this evening from the Williams Arena on the campus of the University of Minnesota. With that, folks, we'll keep it here for at least the next half an hour. So roughly about 32 minutes left. So if you want to get in any more thoughts, please go ahead and do so. We will, of course, get to those as well going forward into the season. And also, folks, as well, have been great, though, as well, seeing a lot of the teams out there that have been sending their appreciation and their respect to the teams that played tonight in the finals for the whole series. And also, folks, a great thing to see here from Ben. I'm showing I'm on my other computer here. Ben with a gift to our good pal, Chris Thomas. Ben says, I know I DM'd you, but for real, your Sparks were a great opponent. They left everything on the floor tonight. Hat tip and Derek Jeter's son tipping his hat to his dad as his gift. And again, folks, I'll say it again and again and again, but this is the reason why, folks, for 13 years that I have been a fan of this league for that exact reason. Again, seeing the camaraderie of our fan base come to fruition once more. Again, of course, Ben and Crystal hung out in Seattle this year during the All-Star game. So again, a great job or at least a great job. And again, great to see the respect and the love from both teams in spite of course, the games being won on the floor. But of course, great, though, to see great commentary and positive commentary, though, coming from all of our great friends in the WNBA Twitter and Facebook communities. Again, just great to see that going forward from all of our great followers out there. And again, show me another league, folks, that has this much camaraderie amongst the fan across their fan base. I'll wait, because I'll probably be a skeleton and in my grave when that does in fact happen. When we see more camaraderie instead of more camaraderie and more positive talking points in regards to everything going forward. Now, with that, folks, again, following this program again, folks, we will be back on our hiatus break going forward. So this is a good time, I think, to actually tell you folks what is being planned right now for this point in time. Now, folks, this is our 364th show, if you can believe it already. My goodness, I can't believe that still anyway. Now, with that, folks, during one of our latest press releases we put out a couple days ago, we will be celebrating, folks, another milestone with you folks. It'll be our 365th show for the WNBA 365 networks. With that, folks, we're going to be following another couple of weeks of off time. We'll come back for that show, and then we'll be back on hiatus again once more. But we are going to be throwing, folks, a massive, lengthy, open forum hangout. We're going to open this up to fans, up to some of our media friends. We'll just talk some basketball, maybe do some terrible karaoke, maybe, who knows. Well, but we will, though, folks, be celebrating our historic 365th show here. I believe in one of the last releases I put out, I can pull this up real quick. I believe right now our target date is October 17th for that show. But we'll have more about that. But, folks, with that, for this very special occasion, for one night only, maybe, but we are going to open this program up, though, to pretty much anyone involved with women's basketball. I'm going to put out a couple of emails to some of our media partners. Been trying, folks, to get these people on here during this break when I've had time to really sit down and check things out and see where we stand right now. But with that, again, looking forward to this again. That will be the show is going to be WNBA 365 at 365. And again, that is going to be tentatively on Tuesday night, October 17th. And with that in mind, I'm going to do a lot of work behind the scenes here once this does in fact end, once the show does end. We will we'll work on that later time and date. But again, we're going to open it up to a bunch of our friends and see what we can in fact do to somewhat, again, say thanks for you folks. And again, folks, I'm going to sit here and just ramble incoherently for the next 28 minutes here with that in mind. But again, folks, kind of trying to get my my thoughts here real quick. I think, though, folks, as I think about things here again, considering, folks, that when I started this network 3 years ago, on February 24th, 2014, this was, again, as I've talked about plenty of times, folks, this was, again, a project I started when I was in broadcasting school, when I was actually going and attending school 3 days a week out east here in San Diego. And, you know, got the idea, storyboarded it, and again, as a person at the time that was, again, in school to be a broadcaster, but again, trying in a very small, limited capacity to try to bring some positive light, positive news, and as I said back then, try to be the NBA TV point or place for WNBA fans. I don't think, though, that I think it would have lasted this long. Again, I know I said this, I think, in July. I said this last month when we were still on air here, and to see how things have come over those 3 years again, where really, you know, it was just Twitter for a while, and then eventually, you know, as you recall, we were under the LA Sparks branding with myself and my former co-host and my best friend Chris Wnba, folks, our longtime colleague here on the network. And then from there to 2015, and then we rebrand ourselves in the off season We bring in Shorty and Reagan and Crystal and Eric and Marquez. And I know, folks, it's been a one-man game for the past few months because there were some internal problems between all of us a little bit back earlier this season. That's why we had the first hiatus break, and then coming back here and now during another hiatus period, of course, and somewhat coming here for just one night and being back on hiatus again. But seeing the popularity and seeing you viewers engage with us, and either and then going to Facebook, and then of course going there, and of course Todd's helped out, and we've had a lot of things, and growing our Twitter network to almost 13, closing in now, folks, on 1,300 followers on Twitter, just surpassing 300 plus likes on Facebook. I just don't know if this is what I could have envisioned when I started this thing 3 years ago. Do we have been able to been here and covered the league as long, this being my 13th season covering and watching the sport going forward, and being able, though, to, try my best. We try our best here on the network to come here when we do have time, of course, but, bring you stuff or bring you content that we know is tough for you fans to find on the web. Obviously, box scores, newspaper articles don't do justice. You want more thoughts, or you want, analysis. You're looking for an avenue that you can, or a place to come to that you'll get more than just the box score, a brief recap of the game. And we try our best to bring you what we can get, either with Crystal's take, Shorty's take, when we had Marquez and Rapp and Eric on here. And again, I just, again, I feel grateful, again, to have been able to obviously landing, being able to interview Candace Parker. Yes, folks, interviewing Candace Wiggins when she was with New York 3 years ago. And then being able to use this platform, use this voice or this platform that I built with my bare hands 3 years ago to bring in or bring on Angelique Gray and Chastity Melvin, and bring on many local writers from Albert Lee, James Bowman, Steve Rice of Women's Basketball Daily, and Stephen Anderson, my great friend, who writes for the Stars. Having a brain fart here, and seeing how much that they appreciate the work that we do here on the network, folks, on Twitter at least. Either following us, either them following us or engaging with us. That's what I think. For me as founder and host, that makes my job not only a lot easier, but a lot more rewarding and a lot more fun to be able to engage with so many people. As I've said plenty of times, again, I don't know how much more I can thank Ben, again, who for one sent us those pictures from Minneapolis, but again, who also, again, offered a bunch of fans, myself included, to go and stay with him in Seattle during the All-Star game this year. I mean, that's just, flat out incredible. If I would have been able to pull that off, that would have been amazing. He's already invited me and a bunch of other people out to Minneapolis for the All-Star game next year, since they're hosting the game next year. And it's just been something that has been truly, amazing. I think amazing is the right word. Awesome. To just be able to engage. And again, I know that, my job is very public address announcing, play-by-play work, and then, of course, with the network. And it's been very, very fun, again, to have been able to keep this running, folks, for as long as we have. Because, early I thought, this is not a good idea. What am I doing? And starting this thing. And this has been great. And we've been able to keep this running in spite of either me being sick. Of course, when Eric Nemchok, our great friend, awesome writer, great dude, who filled in when I was gone, either taking friends out to baseball games during finals weeks, the home run derby last year, or when Eric filled in when I was, of course, out of my house when it was getting repaired and being fixed. That we've been able to keep this running, either through hiatus periods, through changing of players on our roster, that we've kept this going, folks, for soon to be 365 shows very, very soon, in a couple of weeks, hopefully. Knock on wood for that. It's just been incredible again. And to think that 2018 will be our four-year anniversary on here is very baffling. Just thinking about that. And again, this all is not, again, this was my default, but again, I don't take full credit for this being possible. What we stay alive, or we keep going because we want to deliver and bring you the best that we can give you. We try to give you our personal best from every game, from every matchup, every series, and even during college season, folks, we strive. I know I strive, and I know everyone else that was on our panel would say the same, that they try their best to come on here and give you their best performance every night to make sure that we can, give you the scores and, of course, give us thoughts and everything else going forward at this point in time. Todd is asking about how Crystal's mom is doing. Sure, people would like to know. Todd, I have sadly been not able, or have not found out yet how her mom is doing. Last we were in touch, it was a couple of weeks ago, I think, before I was working, I think, at Point Loma Nazarene that day, I think. And she was going to see her mom. So I don't fully know any update yet. But I do know that I'm sure that Crystal will probably let us know how things are going, though. If, in fact, something major did happen, she would probably let us know if, in fact, something did, in fact, go wrong going forward. But again, folks, to reiterate once more again, final score for Game 5 this evening to round out the 2015, I keep thinking 2015 because Minnesota won in 2015, 2017 WNBA Finals Game number 5. Another barn burner of a game that probably a lot of us don't have any fingernails left on our fingers. Final score again this evening, 85-76, Lynx over the Sparks from the Williams Arena on the campus over at the University of Minnesota. So again, folks, kind of go back to what we were talking about here again once more. Again, some plans are in place again, folks. Again, tentatively October 17th. Again, I'm going to be sending out a mass email to a lot of our friends and followers out there to join us for our special 365th show coming up in a couple of weeks, hopefully. But we will, again, this is going to be open to our fans, our viewers, our fans, our followers, to kind of just come and hang. We'll live stream the event. We'll have it going all day if we can. We're going for a while, I should say. Maybe started at about roughly 4 o'clock Pacific time, maybe, and just go for about 8 hours, maybe, just hang out and have a good time and share stories, maybe. And, maybe more so open this up to where when we do have this entire thing that we just come together and we just share stories, maybe just, maybe not talk about the league, but just more so talk about stories and everything else included, folks. I mean, I got some ideas lined up. Again, we'll have more about that after the show does end, coming up in roughly a few minutes here going forward. Going forward into the future. But again, folks, once more, by the way, real quick, time out here real quick. Very important notice for you folks from one of the guys I admire, former longtime San Diego State basketball announcer, T-Wolves announcer now, former Lynx radio guy. My man, Alan Horton, just put up his press release from the Lynx real quick. For those fans in Minneapolis, here is your full details about the Lynx parade and the championship celebration. It will take place starting on the corner of 12th Avenue Southeast and University Avenue and will proceed towards Williams Arena. The procession will end as it enters the doors of Williams Arena. It will take place tomorrow night at 6:30 Central Time, 4:30 Pacific, and the championship celebration will take place or start at 7:15 Central Time, local time in Minneapolis tomorrow. So again, folks, official from Alan Horton of T-Wolves Radio. Again, once more, Lynx championship celebration officially set in stone will take place tomorrow starting at 6:30 Central Time for the parade and the title celebration, 7:15 CDT tomorrow again at Williams Arena over in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And again, folks, another reminder once more to reiterate. Again, Lynx Parade and Title Celebration starting tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. CDT at the Williams Arena. And the championship celebration will take place at 7:15 CDT. Again, all those events will take place in and around Williams Arena tomorrow in the Twin Cities. What's more with that going forward? Todd also says, good idea about the show with fans and media. Sure, people can chip into what improvements they would like to see the league make, marketing ideas, etc. First and foremost, let's get some new hats. I'm just going to say that right here and now. I saw this again tonight, I should say, after the ceremony took place again. Time for some more and new gear for the champs. Again, get rid of the Velcro and the very outdated championship hats. Get some flex fits, some snapbacks, or some better designs maybe going forward. But definitely, Todd going to work on those details going forward. But again, folks, we'll have that for you folks on our special 365th show coming up sometime in the next couple of weeks. Now, again, folks, for those of you wondering, again, our hiatus period will again kick back in following this program this evening. But with that, again, folks, as a reminder, again, one final time, again, I know I said this 3 times, but again, once more, if you did not catch it, just tuning in, again, the Lynx will have their parade and title celebration tomorrow, October 5th, beginning at 6:30 CDT, 6:30 p.m. local time, 6:30 Central Time. Easier said than done, 6:30 p.m. local time tomorrow. And the title celebration, 7:15 Central Time tomorrow at Williams Arena on the campus of the University of Minnesota tomorrow. Again, that will take place in the Twin Cities, again, starting at 6:30 local time tomorrow. And what a way, I think, for the Lynx to once again, for the Lynx to somewhat, again, put their hometown or their city or cities back on the map with another victory, coming off of the Twins losing on Monday, on Tuesday, I should say, in the American League wildcard game to the Yankees. And again, here's the Lynx picking up the slack of Minneapolis sports teams and doing it and getting the job done when another team in Minnesota, not named the Lynx, picked up the slack for Bad City. I nearly almost, folks, made a meme today that was going to be shared on the Twitter account for the network. That would have been a picture of Maya Moore saying, "It's okay, Twins, we got this, ... I might actually still do that, I think. I might still do that on the number Twitter handle, perhaps, if I feel like doing it, maybe, who knows. But, and again, and I said this with Ari Shorts back in August again of, in cities like Minneapolis, Phoenix, even for that matter, San Diego for sure, that the teams that always win or seem to win are always sports that, as we know best, aren't really taken seriously for that matter. Again, at least in San Diego sports history, folks, our last pro title was in 1963. The team that won that title is now 0-4 and playing their football games at a 27,000-seat soccer stadium. At least in Phoenix, minus the D-backs in 2001. They did win the wild card game tonight, and congrats to the D-backs for doing that. But the Mercury have been there to pick up the pieces of the Diamondbacks, of the Cardinals, of the Suns, of the Coyotes. And in this case with the Lynx, again, they're also the same way, picking up the scraps of the Twins, of the Vikings, of the Wild, and the Loons of Major League Soccer. At least with the Sparks winning last year, it kind of, I guess, helped LA fans take their minds off of the Lakers having a 30 or 40 game differential and win-loss last season. Seeing the Clippers, of course, implode in the postseason like they usually do. The Kings not being in the postseason and the Galaxy getting knocked out early in the postseason. So really, it just seems like that there is always that somewhat of that safety net, but also, in the world that we live in right now, it's always the teams that win that, of course, aren't front page news or that aren't on local TV or radio, either with the Lynx or the Sparks or the Mercury, or in San Diego's case, the Gulls or Sockers maybe. Again, like I said, in 2012, when the Sockers did, in fact, win the title when I was there, my first year as a media intern, it was when they won the title that year, the next day in the newspaper, and remember this is March when we won the title over Detroit. All we got was the bottom right portion of the sports page and maybe half or maybe a small little box, I think, on the back of the newspaper, because the head story or headline was Padres spring training opening up, and then I think something about the Chargers, I think, that day. So definitely it's something. And the Lynx have done a great job, I think, though. The Lynx, I think, that they have become, at least in the Twin Cities, they've become a team, I think, that has been on the front lines, I think, for everybody. I think if you look at Cheryl Reeve defending her team, defending the Sparks when they put out that video during the later in the season about, again, showing those tweets those tweets that were, of course, were sent to the Sparks Twitter account and to the players, that if you have a coach that defends her team but also looks out for her other coaches and teams and looks out for the sport, that's a team that I think you should get behind. I think that's a calling card for that going forward, and that it's been great, I think, that the Lynx, whether you're a fan of them or not, folks, that you have to admire and respect what this team has done, not just for themselves, not just for their organization, for their fans of their city. I think that for what they have done for the whole league. And I think that also that the Sparks also get some love here too, because that these past two series, I think that these past two series, last year and this year, 10 total games combined, keep in mind that it was 908, combined total score tied after Game 4 of the series. That both the Sparks and Lynx, maybe a bit more with the Lynx, but also that both teams, I think, call me crazy, call me stupid, that both of these teams, I think, have really helped the WNBA the past 2 years get more people that were kind of on the fence or maybe were somewhat skeptical about watching the game to become fans of either a team or maybe in general just fans of the league in general. I think. I mean that may be a long shot idea, but I don't know if it can be really overstated again about how both of these teams have done wonders, I think, for all of us. And also, Michelle Smith, I admire her work so much when she was with ESPN. She just tweeted this out real quick. 2016 in WNBA, about 20th anniversary, social injustice, Olympics, and great final series. But 2017 was landmark season for league in many ways, citing Twitter deal, EA Sports video game, and also fantasy sports, political activism unmatched in pro sports, and level of play higher than ever. Pay attention. And I think, though, that Michelle's on with, folks, is I know that as much as people would like to pile on, either pile on the teams or pile on the league front office, folks, this year, I think the past 2 years have been landmark, hallmark, great years for the WNBA. In spite of what we may think, as keyboard warriors or sitting, in your bedroom as you do a podcast at 9:25 at night, is that this season, between the Twitter deal, being able to watch the game live on Twitter and interact with fans there, use that hashtag. FanDuel's done wonders. Even my squad, even my squad as well. There was a game, folks, that I actually won. I finished in first place. Thank you to my homie and go-to girl, Candace Parker, for helping out with that game. But there was a game that I finished on top of the leaderboard for an LA game against Connecticut this season, and I just don't know if there's been back-to-back years though that we've had so much excitement or even so much positive stuff come out of the WNBA, I think, going forward. All right, let's go to Todd real quick in the chat box. He says, in regards to the Lynx, he says they are the only pro sports team there that has ever won a title, along with the Twins, of course, winning 2. When the Twins won in 87 and 91. Todd says about the whole season and series. He says, I thought for pure entertainment and offense, it was a better series than last year. Cannot say this was a great series. Callan was competitive and low scoring. That it was. And our great friend Christy Wilson wants to say hi and also says this season has been the most fun and most competitive season ever. You know, and Christy, I said this before we started hiatus back in August, was that what did I say? Between volleyball, soccer, hockey, been missing a lot of things here, folks. I apologize. What I recall best was about the format change, Christy, K-Dub, was that is that every game, regardless if your team was playing or not, you were intrigued, you were biting your nails, you were eating popcorn, you were on the edge of your seat, either on the couch, on your bed, at your computer desk, and you were hanging on with every possession the past 2 years. And I don't know if there has been back-to-back seasons as mentioned. I don't know if there's been back-to-back years where we've had so much excitement, so much drama with the league going forward. And Christy also says the Lynx Sparks rivalry reminds me a lot of the Cavs and Warriors in the NBA. You know, obviously, yes, I think that's been 2 years that we've had Lynx and Sparks. You know, a third year would be incredible or amazing if that happened. And, you know, that's actually a very interesting, very great point, Christy, because the only difference, though, is that this is actually a conference matchup. I think that people forget that, even though the format has changed, we've gotten West versus West in both of the first 2 series since the format changed. So obviously not full-blown Cavs Warriors, but perhaps Warriors Spurs, Warriors Thunder, Ducks Predators. You know, trying to think of other Western Conference matchups I've seen. Last year was San Jose and Grand Rapids in the AHL last season. The year before that was Ontario and Lake Erie / Cleveland, which was also a good one. But no, it's going to be fun, though, when, in fact, the Lynx and Sparks do hook up for Game 1 next year, both defending champs of the new format so far. That's going to be fun, though, when that does, in fact, happen going forward for both those teams going forward for next season. And I kind of wish we had the 2018 schedule already with us here, but sadly, we'll have to wait till March or April before we do, in fact, get that schedule for next season going forward here into the future. But with that, though, folks, again, it's been a fun night here. Again, folks, thanks for tuning in here tonight again as we can come back for one night. Again, somewhat of a one-night stand in regards to us coming back from hiatus briefly before we do, in fact, go back into our shell and go back into hibernation for a couple of days or so, or a couple of weeks, I should say, going forward with this here this evening. With that, though, folks, we'll call it a night right here. But again, to reiterate your final score for the 2017 WNBA Finals, Game 5 final this evening. Again, the Minnesota Lynx win their 4th WNBA title in 7 seasons. They upset the defending champion LA Sparks in Game 5 at home, 85-76. A final score this evening from the Williams Arena over on the campus of the University of Minnesota. And also congrats to Sylvia Fowles, who played her tail off for winning both league and finals MVP. Congrats to Sweet Sill on the honor, and also congrats to Rebecca Brunson for her 5th WNBA title. First one to ever do that in her illustrious career going forward. And also Christy Wilson wants to say congrats to the Lynx on the WNBA championship victory. Again, folks, we will see you folks back here hopefully sooner than later. But again, we'll have some more. We'll have a press release, folks, about the hiatus resuming, and also have more about what we are planning for our special WNBA 365 at 365 Spectacular. So then, folks, Comic Code signing off from San Diego. Good night, and thanks for joining us for the entire 2017 season. Good night. Bye-bye.